Luna Maxwell wasn't your average 20-something. Sure, she had the requisite flaws: procrastination, chronic caffeine dependence, a love-hate relationship with her yoga mat. But the thing that set her apart from the usual crowd of aimless millennials wasn't her ability to binge-watch entire seasons of shows in one sitting, or her knack for blending sarcasm into every conversation. It was something far more dangerous: her ability to tear apart the fabric of reality itself. At first, Luna hadn't realized the true scope of her powers. It started small. A misplaced thought, a skipped step, and suddenly the person standing across from her in line at the coffee shop was now holding a hot dog instead of a latte. She blamed it on a typo in her meditation journal. After all, bending spacetime couldn't possibly be that easy, right? But as she dove deeper into the mystery of her unexplainable abilities, Luna began to understand the power she'd unlocked was far beyond anything her college textbooks could explain. She was, in essence, a conduit for interdimensional chaos, a living portal to countless parallel worlds. A blip here, a ripple there, and in an instant, she'd slip between dimensions like someone flipping through TV channels. She had done the math. Somewhere between 10 and 60 trillion parallel realities existed. Some were identical to her own, some were offshoots where the smallest choices had led to unimaginable consequences. But the best part? Luna could visit them all, pick and choose, and most importantly, alter things. She was, for all intents and purposes, a god. Or, at least, she liked to think so. The consequences, however, were, let's just say, not as fun as she anticipated. The first sign something had gone wrong was subtle. Luna didn't notice at first. But her friends did. Clara, her self-proclaimed alien conspiracist roommate, was the first to point out the oddities. "Luna, this is getting weird," Clara said one morning as she watched her attempt to open the door to their shared apartment. Luna turned the knob, but instead of the expected click, it felt like the door was pulling her into it. Did you just cause the door to, try to eat you?" Luna frowned and gave the door a nervous shove, which it immediately released. The door returned to its usual form. "Oh, that's nothing," Luna said nonchalantly, stepping inside. "Just a little glitch in the matrix." "You've been doing a lot of those glitches lately," Clara said, waving her hand dismissively at the strange noise coming from the living room. It sounded like someone was having a heated debate in a foreign language, but when they walked in, the room was empty. "Just a pizza box and a pile of laundry," Luna shrugged. "I've been a little busy exploring the multiverse, okay? Don't knock it until you've accidentally turned your kitchen into an alternate timeline where toast can talk." Clara stared at her, unimpressed. "Right, well, just so you know, I'm pretty sure the laundry's talking now." Luna's eyes twinkled. "It's fine. Probably just a rogue dimension colliding with ours. Maybe there's a universe out there where laundry does talk. I wouldn't be surprised." "Oh. Speaking of rogue dimensions," she pulled out a holographic map from her bag, one she'd been working on for weeks, plotting the locations of the multiversal rifts she had caused. The more Luna investigated the rifts, the clearer it became that they were not just side effects of her powers. No, these cracks, slivers between the universes, were a problem, and not a small one. At first, it seemed like harmless fun. Every now and then, she'd slip through a rift, enjoy a couple of hours in a version of the world where everything was made of jelly beans, or where New York City had been swallowed up by a giant river of chocolate. But that was before she realized that the cracks weren't just random accidents. Something was following her. It began to feel like the rifts themselves were alive, like they were reaching out, trying to pull her somewhere. The first time it happened was when she wandered into a new, unsanctioned world, a world of staggering vertical cities built upon the backs of enormous flying creatures. Luna thought she'd stumbled into an interdimensional paradise, but as soon as she stepped through the rift, she felt it. A presence. Something dark. Something hungry. Luna had barely escaped that world, and when she returned to her own, the feeling hadn't gone away. In fact, The cracks had only grown worse. That's when the rift opened in front of her one evening, like a tear in the sky. It was so sudden that Luna barely had time to react before the crack expanded into a massive hole, its edges pulsating with an eerie violet light. Through the rift, she saw the creature. It wasn't solid, not really. It was more like a black hole with eyes, a swirling mass of shadows and tendrils that seemed to stretch and writhe like some nightmarish combination of a squid, a starfish, and the deepest void of space. But the eyes were the worst part. They weren't just staring at her, they were looking inside her. The creature knew her. Knew everything about her, everything she'd done, every dimension she'd visited, and it wanted more. It reached out with one of its tendrils, a long, impossibly thin strand of pure darkness that seemed to pull the air around it, stretching reality with every movement. Luna didn't wait to find out what it wanted. She bolted, running as fast as her legs could carry her, even though she knew, deep down, it was useless. Whatever that thing was, it was connected to the cracks. It wasn't going to stop. Back in her apartment, Luna collapsed on the couch, her breath ragged. Her mind raced. This wasn't just some random cosmic glitch. No, this was something far worse. The cracks in the multiverse weren't accidental, they were a symptom of something much bigger. The creature, she didn't even know what to call it, was feeding on the energy that held the universes together. If it broke through, if it got what it wanted, there wouldn't be any more dimensions, any more worlds to slip into. There would only be darkness. Clara, Luna said, grabbing her roommate's attention. I think I've made a mistake. A big one. Clara, who was still sitting on the couch with a confused expression, slowly raised an eyebrow. Like, a big art project mistake? No, Luna said, rubbing her temples. Bigger. Clara blinked at Luna, still processing. Wait, so you're telling me that everything is falling apart because you, I don't know, wandered into a few alternate universes? Luna let out a long, shaky breath. It's not just wandering, Clara. She paused, trying to form the right words. I've been breaking things. Little rips here and there. But the cracks, the rifts between the universes? They're getting worse. That thing I saw earlier? It's connected to all of this. It's feeding on the energy between dimensions, and if it breaks through, it'll consume everything. Clara tilted her head. Feed on the energy between dimensions? Like what? How does that even work? This is starting to sound like one of those horror movies where the girl opens a door to some hellish nightmare and then it all goes wrong. You know, the kind where you're like, don't go in there. Luna shot her a look. I'm not some horror movie protagonist, Clara. I don't want to make this worse. The rifts I've been opening, they're growing. And something else is starting to slip through. Clara was silent for a long moment, then sighed dramatically, flopping back onto the couch. Great. Just great. So, what? We need to, call a multiverse repairman or something? No, Luna said, shaking her head. There's no one to call. I created this mess. I need to fix it. There's only one way to do that. She pulled out the glowing map again, tracing her finger over a cluster of coordinates where the rifts seemed to overlap in strange ways. The heart of the multiverse. It's a thing. A myth, really, but I think it's real. If I can find it, I can stabilize the rifts, maybe even close them for good. Clara blinked. So you want to go hunting for the heart of the multiverse, like Indiana Jones, but with interdimensional rifts? Luna shot her an irritated look. Exactly. But with less snakes and more existential dread. Clara nodded solemnly. Got it. I'm in. Really? Luna asked, skeptical. You're just going to go along with this? Clara grinned, unfazed. Why not? I've already lived with you while you broke time and space. You can't get much weirder than that. Luna chuckled despite herself. Okay, well, you might want to reconsider. This could get really dangerous. I've got a necklace I bought at a thrift store, Clara said, tapping her collarbone. It's imbued with ancient spiritual energy. I'm practically invincible. Luna sighed. Sure. Just don't make it weird. They spent the rest of the night planning. Luna scoured through every bit of ancient mythology, obscure quantum mechanics paper, and wild theories she could find, trying to piece together clues about the heart of the multiverse. The more she learned, the more impossible it all seemed, but she didn't have a choice. The creature, the consuming entity, had begun to stir, and if it wasn't stopped soon, it would devour every world, every dimension, every possibility. By morning, Luna had come to a decision. She wasn't sure if it was the right one, but it was the only one she had. She'd use every ounce of her power, every trick she knew, to find the heart of the multiverse, and hopefully, the key to saving everything. The next few days blurred together as Luna and Clara made preparations. Luna had spent so much time weaving in and out of dimensions that she'd lost track of how strange and unpredictable they truly were. It wasn't as simple as just hopping between worlds. Every rift held its own dangers, its own quirks, and no two places were ever exactly the same. She opened one rift and found herself in a world where everything was covered in a thick fog that shifted like liquid. The trees grew sideways, and the sky was a swirling vortex of blue and green. She felt the tug of the rift behind her, like it was pulling her to somewhere worse, but she resisted the urge to run. Not this time. She needed answers, Clara, Luna said, looking over her shoulder. Stay close. I don't know what this place is, but I don't want to take chances. Clara nodded, holding her makeshift ancient energy necklace like it was a shield. Luna half expected her to start chanting, but Clara just grinned and stuffed her hands in her pockets. As they walked through the fog, Luna could feel the tension building. The air seemed to hum with an electric charge, like something was watching them, waiting. And sure enough, as they reached the edge of the forest, someone, stepped into view. At first, it appeared to be just a shadow in the fog, but as it moved closer, Luna saw that it was a person. Or, rather, something that had once been human. It was tall, gaunt, with limbs too long and joints too flexible. Its skin was translucent, revealing the eerie glow of its veins, like it had been plucked straight from a nightmare. Luna's heart pounded as the creature, person, extended its hand toward her, its fingers twitching unnaturally. You're not supposed to be here, it rasped. Luna's instincts kicked in. Without thinking, she grabbed Clara's arm and yanked her backward, pulling her through the rift and back into the safety of their world. They both stumbled out of the swirling fog and into the familiar, comforting chaos of their living room. Luna's heart was still racing. We need to find that heart, she said, voice shaking. And we need to find it fast. The next rift was less about searching and more about running. Luna found herself in a dimension that was entirely upside down, with streets that arched like bridges into an endless sky. The buildings seemed to float, their foundations somehow suspended in midair. But the strangest part was the people, or, rather, the versions of people she recognized, only slightly off. They seemed to be trapped in time, living out their routines but unable to notice Luna or Clara, as if they were actors in a play. It was then that Luna realized the heart of the multiverse might be hidden in places like this, spaces that were stuck, frozen between realities. The problem, of course, was that she didn't know where to look. The more she thought about it, the more she realized she was running out of time. The rifts had already spread so far, and each one was getting bigger. That creature was still out there, hunting. Where are we even going? Clara asked, her voice breaking through Luna's thoughts. I don't know, Luna admitted, her gaze flicking to the shifting landscape around them. But we're close. I can feel it. We have to keep moving. With every step, Luna could feel the rift's pull grow stronger, but as she glanced behind her, she caught sight of a figure lurking in the distance. Its silhouette was too familiar, the creature from the earlier rift.it was following them. Luna's stomach dropped. She wasn't sure if they were being chased across dimensions, but she couldn't afford to waste time. There was no way to outrun it. No way to hide. It would find them, sooner or later, but maybe, just maybe, if she could reach the heart of the multiverse before it did, she could close the rifts, before everything collapsed into darkness. In that moment, everything snapped into focus. Luna knew exactly where she had to go. There's no time left, she muttered, pulling Clara toward the next rift. We have to get to the Nexus. Clara didn't ask questions. She just followed. The rift shimmered as they passed through it, the world around them distorting like a bad signal on an old TV. The Nexus, Luna realized, was no place for the faint of heart. It was a place of in-betweens, where all dimensions met, and where the lines between reality and illusion were razor-thin. As they emerged on the other side, Luna felt the air crackle with unnatural energy, the ground beneath them shifting as though the laws of physics themselves had no authority here. But there was no turning back now that they'd made it to the heart of it all. The Nexus felt like a place suspended between moments. It was an abstract space, one that couldn't be captured by conventional senses, and it threw everything Luna knew about the laws of the universe into question. There was no gravity, but there was movement. The horizon bent in ways that shouldn't have been possible. The ground beneath her feet seemed to shift from solid to liquid and back again in the blink of an eye, and the colors, no, the very concept of color, had no fixed definition here. The air crackled, charged with an energy that hummed in Luna's bones, pulling at her like a magnet. Clara looked around, wide-eyed, and took a cautious step forward. I'm starting to get the feeling that we're not in Kansas anymore, Luna. Luna didn't answer. Her mind was too focused on the path ahead. She had no idea how to navigate the Nexus. It was not a place that played by any set of rules. But she knew this, the heart of the multiverse was close. She could feel it vibrating through the rifts, pulling her forward, as though the entire universe were converging on this one, singular point. Her heart raced with a mix of dread and exhilaration. The air in the Nexus was thick with the potential for both creation and destruction, and Luna felt as though she were standing on the precipice of something colossal. Something that could undo everything, or save it all. Clara caught up with her, her voice low. Are we sure this is the right place? Because, honestly, it's giving me the creeps. Luna didn't answer. She was too focused on the shifting patterns in the air around her. At first, it had been faint, barely perceptible, a ripple in the fabric of space, a subtle tremor, but now the sensation had grown stronger, like an invisible hand was pushing her forward. Something was waiting for her. The Nexus didn't follow linear time, so Luna couldn't be sure if minutes or hours had passed as they walked deeper into its strange terrain. The further they moved, the more the rifts around them began to distort, the space bending like fabric pulled too tight. At one point, Luna glanced at a rift and saw an alternate version of herself staring back at her from the other side. The reflection waved at her. It was a normal, happy Luna, one who hadn't messed up the multiverse. Luna smiled at the sight, but the smile quickly faded when the reflection waved back, and the other version of her looked sad. Luna felt a pang in her chest. She wanted to wave back, to fix everything, but the Nexus wasn't the place for nostalgia. She had no time for it. A crack in the air ahead of them drew her attention, and Luna's steps quickened. It was larger than the others, pulsing with a strange energy that made the hairs on her neck stand up. Then, as they approached, a voice echoed from nowhere, reverberating through her very mind, deep and primal. You shouldn't be here. Luna froze. She had heard that voice before. The creature from the rifts, the one that had chased her across dimensions, was speaking to her. It was inside her head now, aware of her every thought, every step. The consuming entity. It was closing in, ready to take everything, to erase the dimensions one by one. I can feel you, the voice whispered again. You cannot stop me. The heart is mine. Luna swallowed, trying to steady her breath. She could feel the weight of its words pressing down on her, but she refused to let it break her resolve. No, she said, her voice firm. I'm going to stop you. The rift pulsed again, sending waves of nausea through her body. Clara steadied herself beside Luna, her eyes wide but determined. What now? Luna didn't answer at first. She was scanning the nexus, searching for any sign of the heart. It had to be here. It had to be. Then, like a beacon, she saw it. In the distance, a massive structure rose from the ground, gleaming with an impossible, otherworldly light. It was like a tower of crystal, twisting and stretching upwards into infinity. The heart of the multiverse. Luna's pulse quickened. She was so close now. But the consuming entity was close too. You think you can stop me, Luna Maxwell? The voice sneered. You have no idea what you're dealing with. You're nothing but a speck in the grand design. Luna clenched her fists. I'm more than that. With a burst of determination, she started running, Clara following close behind. Every step felt heavy, as though the very air was pushing back, but Luna didn't falter. She couldn't. The heart was within reach, but so was the entity. If she didn't make it there in time, it would all be over. The air around them distorted as the consuming entity manifested itself, its massive, dark form appearing at the edge of the nexus. Its tendrils reached out, snaking toward them, warping space itself. Luna could feel its power pressing in on her, suffocating, pulling at her very essence. Her chest tightened as if the creature was squeezing the life out of her. Luna didn't slow down. She couldn't. She had made too many mistakes, but she would fix them. She had to. The distance between her and the heart of the multiverse closed. With one final, desperate leap, Luna dove into the pulsing light of the heart. And as she did, the world around her exploded. The rift, the nexus, the entity, all of it, seemed to collapse inward. The heart itself resonated with a hum so powerful it shook the very foundation of the multiverse. Luna felt herself being torn apart, her body disintegrating into pure energy as she was pulled into the core of the heart. For a brief moment, everything around her, the vast, shifting dimensions, the crackling energy of the nexus, and the endless stretch of time itself, collapsed into a single point of blinding white light. And then, silence. Luna opened her eyes, but there was nothing. Just nothing. The void stretched out endlessly in every direction, and for a moment, she thought she had failed. That she was lost forever in the space between worlds. But then, something shifted. The light from the heart began to pulse again, soft at first, then stronger, as if the heart itself had been waiting for her. She could feel its presence inside her, filling the empty space around her. The rifts, the cracks in the multiverse, they began to close, one by one. She had done it. She had stopped the consuming entity, the nexus, the heart. Everything was still there, but it no longer felt like chaos. It felt whole again. Luna took a deep breath, her body flickering back into existence, whole once more. The pull of the heart's energy faded, and the world around her began to solidify. She wasn't sure what had just happened, what this place was, or how it worked, but the task was complete. The multiverse had been saved. A voice broke through the silence, not from the entity this time, but from Clara. Luna? Is that you? Luna turned. Clara was standing a few feet away, looking just as confused as Luna felt. But they had done it. They had saved everything. Yeah, it's me, Luna said, her voice shaking but steady. We made it. Clara raised an eyebrow. Are we in space? Luna didn't answer immediately. She felt something new in the air, a kind of balance, a symmetry. The multiverse had been preserved, but it was different now. It had healed. She had healed it. Not exactly, Luna said, walking toward Clara. But I think we're about to see what comes next. As the two stood there, the weight of their actions settling in, Luna knew one thing for sure. The multiverse would always be a part of her now, and as long as she had the power to protect it, she would, for better or worse. The adventure wasn't over.